Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories. My name is Matt. I know this podcast is quite new, but some of you have been following along for a while now. As you may have noticed, the narrator has changed a couple of times already in just a few months. The truth is, the podcast has been growing extremely slow, and basically nobody has left us any reviews so far. I'm here as the new voice of the podcast and would love to stick around, but I need your support to do so. Please, if you enjoy our content, it would mean so much to us if you could just leave us a review on whichever podcast platform you use. Now, take a deep breath and let's begin tonight's story.
Welcome to Deep Sleep Stories, a warm and peaceful space where the hush of night meets the gentle glow of your imagination. You've arrived here to pause and rest, to feel the weight of everyday cares gently lift from your shoulders. Tonight, you'll be invited to glide through a softly lit, rainy San Francisco, where lights shimmer behind curtains of fog, and the mystery of the city at twilight holds a quiet comfort. Let the promise of city lights and the distant hush of raindrops soothe your mind. Feel your breathing slow and deepen as you nestle into a cozy spot, ready to drift on a tide of calm thoughts. With every soft breath, tension drifts away, leaving you open to the mellow glow of serene storytelling. Take a slow, gentle inhale now, and then exhale, letting go of any worries that linger at the edges of your awareness. Picture a warm blanket draped around your shoulders, a soft cushion beneath you, and a sense of well-being settling in. This moment is yours to simply be. You can close your eyes if you wish, or keep them just barely open, letting the world soften around the edges. The story that follows is meant to guide you toward a tranquil state, like a quiet walk through fog-shrouded streets that sparkle with lamplight. Allow the gentle rhythm of your heart to find a peaceful pace as you sink into the soothing comfort of night's embrace. A thin veil of fog stretched along the silhouette of the Golden Gate Bridge, turning its iconic beams into ghostly shapes in the distance. An evening drizzle had descended over San Francisco, casting its streets in gleaming reflections and silent ripples across puddles on the sidewalk. As the nighttime began to unfold, a young woman named Ava stepped outside her narrow townhouse. She drew her coat tighter around her shoulders, the collar turned upward in a protective gesture against the cool drizzle. In the sky, city lights danced on low-slung clouds, bathing everything below in a faint silver glow. The hush of the damp air made it feel as though the entire city was ready for slumber, even as gentle headlights glided by on the street. In the waning evening, Ava made her way down the slick steps, one hand on the iron railing still beaded with raindrops. Her footsteps were muffled on the sidewalk, a soft echo that accompanied the subtle hiss of drizzle beneath the street lamps. Each pool of lamplight formed a halo in the haze, blurred by the shifting fog that drifted in gentle currents across the street. There was a timelessness to that night, a sense that the city, often so bustling, had hushed itself just for her quiet stroll. She passed the softly lit windows of Victorian houses, each one glowing from within. Behind their glass panes, life continued in cozy domestic scenes. An older gentleman quietly reading in a high-backed chair, a family sharing a meal, a single lamp illuminating a plush sofa with a sleeping cat curled upon it. Each window told a private story, snippets of ordinary life warmed by the promise of comfort and belonging. Ava wondered what gentle dreams might unfold behind those drawn curtains, letting her mind wander like a traveller meandering through side streets at dusk. Misty clouds caress the tops of the buildings, soft and alive, like the city's breath. Here and there, the subtle neon signs of corner stores glowed pink and orange, a faint buzz crackling in the damp air. Buses lumbered by with their windows fogged, headlights shining in a watery shimmer on the pavement. Ava paused at a bus stop bench for a moment, feeling the faint hum of the passing city. She turned her face upward to the drizzle. Tiny droplets gathered on her eyelashes, and she closed her eyes just for a heartbeat, absorbing the quiet of her surroundings. Through the hush, the distant foghorn from the bay sounded, its deep call echoing through the misty streets. A gentle breeze carried the brine of seawater, blending with the earthy scent of wet pavement and the faint aroma of coffee drifting from a small cafe around the corner. Ava found herself drawn to that comforting perfume of roasted beans, deciding to step inside the cafe for a few moments of warmth before continuing her walk. Inside, the cafe glowed with golden light. The walls were painted a soft turquoise, and framed black and white photographs of old San Francisco dotted the walls. The gentle hum of an espresso machine filled the space, along with the low murmur of relaxed conversation. Ava chose a seat in a corner, away from the window, a cozy nook where she could quietly observe the other patrons. A friendly barista offered her a cup of chamomile tea, a kind gesture on such a rainy evening. She cupped the warm mug in her hands, inhaling the soothing floral steam that spiraled upward. The low chime of a doorbell announced another arrival. A few more people shuffled in, shaking off umbrellas and politely brushing raindrops from their coats. People seemed kinder on nights like this. Perhaps the shared experience of a gentle rain and fog made everyone more aware of comfort, of closeness, and of the small acts of warmth that lighten one's spirit. As she finished her tea, Ava felt her shoulders relax further, as though an invisible weight had been lifted from them. The steam, the dim lights, and the lull of conversation lulled her into a tranquil mood. Stepping back outside, she pulled her coat close again. The drizzle had softened to a faint mist, leaving a fine sheen on every surface. Street lamps shimmered in watery circles, reflecting off the wet asphalt. She allowed her feet to guide her towards the gentle slopes of the nearest hill, not aiming for any particular destination. Nights like this were made for quiet wandering, where the path itself became the story, and the destination ceased to matter. As she walked, the rhythm of her breathing synchronized with the hush of the city. The rain-laden air felt crisp, yet soothing, and the gentle slope of the hill provided an easy, unhurried climb. With each step, Ava noticed the scenery shift, from rows of painted Victorian facades to tall evergreens in a park that overlooked the bay. The The sweet-smelling foliage glistened, each leaf adorned with tiny beads of moisture. Now and then, a car's headlights glinted through the fog, painting the branches with fleeting streaks of brightness before passing on. In the distance, cable cars traced their familiar routes, their bells muffled by the thick air, but still tinkling softly, like wind chimes. Ava paused near the cable car tracks, watching as the trolley emerged from the fog, filled with only a handful of evening passengers. It rattled gently uphill, lights illuminated, forging a path through the swirling mist. There was something comforting about the steadfast routine of these cable cars, a reminder that, come fog or rain, they faithfully continued their course, connecting people through the heart of the city. Climbing a few steps farther, she reached the crest of a gentle rise. There, the city opened up below. Rows of twinkling lights lined the streets, reflecting in puddles and glimmering through the watery haze. Slender silhouettes of palm trees waved softly in the breeze, and beyond them, the Bay Bridge shimmered, its long string of lights dancing like tiny stars. The hush of the night seemed deeper at this vantage, as though the city itself were gently breathing in time with the tide. She let her gaze wander across the horizon, drawn by the silent drama of passing clouds that swirled overhead. Every so often, a silver swirl of fog drifted down, touching rooftops before retreating again to higher altitudes. In the near distance, the spire of a cathedral rose into the gloom, bathed in subtle amber lights that glowed through the mist. The occasional hush of distant traffic and the soft drip of water from gutters composed a lullaby for the city. From her vantage point, Ava could see a small corner market still open, its windows glowing a friendly yellow. She decided to wander down again, drifting through streets that curved gracefully among the hills. Overhead, old-fashioned street lamps glinted against the wet sidewalk, each creating a delicate orb of radiance. Small balconies overflowed with hanging plants, their leaves offering soft applause in the breeze, as though beckoning any passerby to linger and admire their rain-kissed beauty. At the market, the door opened with a gentle squeak. A wooden floor creaked beneath her feet as she walked among neatly arranged displays of fresh bread, local produce, and an assortment of dried flowers. The person behind the counter gave her a kindly nod, too peaceful to disturb the hush with unnecessary conversation. Ava picked up a small bar of dark chocolate, just enough sweetness to accompany her solitude. The cashier rang up her purchase slowly, in no rush, and soon she was back on the sidewalk, tucking the chocolate bar into her coat pocket. As the night grew deeper, the fog thickened, condensing into a pearly sheen that shrouded everything with a sense of dreamy mystery. Street corners merged into soft shapes, and lampposts seemed to float in the mist, their bases disappearing in hazy darkness. Ava found a narrow pathway bordered by rows of hydrangea bushes, each cluster of blossoms nodding beneath droplets of rain. The path led her alongside a fence adorned with climbing vines that smelled faintly of jasmine, though the chilly air muted its scent into a gentle whisper. Passing a small courtyard, she heard the gentle trickle of a fountain, a secret corner of calm hidden in the city. Intrigued, she ventured in, discovering a few stone benches arranged in a circle around the fountain's basin. The water bubbled softly, droplets cascading into the pool below, echoing the drizzling sky. Ava paused by the fountain, listening to the interplay of water sounds. The gentle plip-plop of droplets against stone lulled her into a near meditative state, as though each sound was an invitation to sink further into a quiet realm. In the faint glow of a nearby lamp, she caught sight of her reflection in the water. The image wavered with the movement of the fountain, edges drifting in and out of clarity. The reflection reminded her of the transient nature of all things, a passing moment in the midst of a city's grand timeline. She reached into her pocket and broke off a piece of the dark chocolate. Letting it melt on her tongue, she closed her eyes, savouring the subtle bitterness and gentle sweetness. That singular sensation, paired with the hush of the courtyard, brought an incredible sense of comfort that softened the edges of her day. Gathering her coat around her, Ava made her way out of the courtyard and continued along a silent lane. The city lights glowed like fireflies at the periphery of the fog, forming small constellations among the Victorian rooftops. Now and then, a breeze would part the fog just enough to reveal a glimpse of a stately old mansion or a charming brick home. Some windows were still alight, their inhabitants reading late into the night or finishing quiet chores before bedtime. Ava mused on how, beneath the city's hush, hearts kept beating and small stories continued unfolding, each as gentle as her own meandering journey. A stray cat emerged from behind a fence post, blinking luminous eyes at her through the mist. It paused, as if assessing her intentions, then trotted closer to rub against her ankles. Ava stooped down and stroked the cat's damp fur, smiling at its soft purr that vibrated through her fingertips. For a moment, the cat lingered, appreciative of the warmth and the gentle attention, before strolling back into the quiet darkness. The encounter reminded her that even in the city's labyrinth of streets, moments of connection could spark quietly and disappear like breath in the cold air. The hours moved slowly, yet somehow time felt pleasantly suspended in that dreamlike atmosphere. Ava found herself drawn toward the waterfront, following the downhill slope. The path led through neighborhoods with old iron gates and short flights of stone stairs, each step a soft echo that dissolved into the drizzle. A small gust, now and then, brushed against her face, carrying the fresh smell of the ocean. Soon she could discern the wide-open darkness of the water ahead, interrupted only by pinpoints of light from anchored boats and far-off buoys. Reaching the waterfront, she gazed across the bay. The dark waters reflected the lights of the city, shimmering like scattered jewels across the surface. In the distance, the Bay Bridge stood in silent grandeur, its suspender cables lit in a procession of twinkles that merged with the swirling haze. Occasionally, the low moan of a foghorn punctuated the night, its reverberation a reminder of the bay's hidden depths. Even though she couldn't see everything through the curtain of mist, there was a comfort in the idea that the city continued on, just out of sight, wrapping her in its mysterious lull. Ava found a wooden bench near the harbour. She sat for a while, watching raindrops glide down the hood of her coat. The hush here was profound. Only the distant sound of slow-turning waves lapping against the pier gave a rhythmic pulse to the scene. The reflection of street lamps quivered in the water's slight motion, creating ribbons of light that curved and wavered in mesmerizing patterns. Occasionally, a faint shuffle told of a seagull adjusting its wings on a nearby post. But aside from that, the world rested in a drowsy hush. In that moment, she thought of how the city itself offered a gentle lullaby, one sung by foghorns, by distant echoes of trolley bells, by the hush of tires on wet streets, and by the warm hum of life inside the glowing windows. San Francisco's rainy nights carried a certain poetry in their hush, a story that needed no words, just a patient ear to listen. Ava felt the steady rise and fall of her own breath, matching the faint, serene flow of the bay's water. Soon she stood again, drawn by an unspoken desire to keep walking, to let the quiet adventure guide her feet. She passed through a small dock area where moored sailboats rocked softly, their halyards tapping a gentle metallic lullaby against the masts. Faint beams of light from a security lamp revealed swirling droplets of drizzle, each speck shining momentarily before vanishing into the night. Following the path away from the docks, she found a winding street that led back upward. Buildings rose around her once more, tall forms with ornate entryways and old cast-iron street lamps. The deeper she ventured, the more the city's secrets seemed to come alive in the mist. The carved faces on centuries-old facades, the quiet alleyways lined with flower boxes, the glint of stained glass windows in a tiny chapel illuminated by a single candle. Every detail offered a chance to pause, to appreciate how even the smallest elements could radiate warmth in the damp darkness. Eventually, she reached a neighborhood park where great eucalyptus trees stood guardians over a wide lawn. Their tall silhouettes leaned and swayed gently, leaves rustling in soft conversation. The fog thickened here, making the street lamps glow like fireflies. A stone path wound through the grass, past a low pond that reflected the park lights in dappled patterns. The gentle patter of raindrops on the pond's surface was a soothing symphony, each ripple spreading outward in slow circles that overlapped, then disappeared. Ava's pace slowed even further, as if the park itself requested silence. The bench beneath a sprawling tree beckoned, and she settled onto it, looking out at the pond's surface. She recalled earlier moments of her walk, the cafe's warmth, the comforting notes of the fountain, the hush of the waterfront, and felt a wave of gratitude for the city's hidden pockets of serenity. Even among the urban sprawl, there were small sanctuaries where one could listen to the world's softer voice. Time slipped by gently, and eventually, Ava decided to head back to her own cozy townhouse. The night had grown late, and the drizzling rain had tapered to a faint mist once again. Returning through winding streets, she passed an old library with grand pillars, closed for the night, its steps glistening with fresh rain. She passed a row of shops shuttered behind iron gates, florists, art galleries, and tiny bakeries waiting for morning. The hush was absolute, broken only by her own footsteps and the occasional watery swoosh of a car in the distance. At last, she recognized the familiar sight of her street, a gently sloping lane lined with potted plants and lovingly restored front porches. Her townhouse stood at the corner, its facade softly lit by an overhead lantern. She climbed the steps with an unhurried calm, turning her key in the old lock. The door opened with a friendly creak, and the inviting darkness within welcomed her home. She quietly slipped out of her coat and left her shoes by the door. The soft glow from a small lamp in the living room offered just enough light to guide her inside. Her home felt still, as though it had waited patiently for her return, ready to cradle her in warmth and rest. The windows, now lightly misted with condensation, hinted at the fog outside. In the hush of the house, she made a cup of herbal tea to take to her bedroom. She sipped it slowly, recalling the gentle scenes she had witnessed, the reflections of lights in puddles, the kind faces, the drifting fog, and the softly lit corners that whispered stories of quiet nights in a timeless city. Now, as you hover on the edge of wakefulness, imagine yourself settling into a soft bed, the rhythm of your breath in tune with the faint patter of rain. The story, gentle as it was, can fade like the fog, leaving only warmth and stillness in its place. Let your eyelids grow heavier. Every muscle in your body loosens, any lingering tension dissolves. The hush of the city night is a lullaby all its own, guiding you deeper into a realm of softness and calm. Feel the gentle hum of the world around you, a low resonance that assures you of safety. As you sink into the comfort of your resting place, allow any final thoughts to drift by like clouds, carrying themselves away on the midnight breeze. There is nothing else to do now, nowhere else to be. You can let yourself fall deeper and deeper into soothing sleep, where dreams glimmer like faraway city lights through a gentle rain. Everything grows still. The hush of the rain, the memory of fog rolling through streets, the glow of street lamps, they all slip into a peaceful blur, dissolving into a quiet that eases your mind. Slowly and effortlessly, you glide into the deep embrace of restful slumber. Good night, dear traveller. Sleep well. May your dreams be filled with gentle lights and the soothing patter of rain, carrying you into a realm of comfort until morning's first light softly returns.